Hello, Father Campo here. Yes, very casual today, at least this afternoon. I was cleaning in the church and doing a little exercise, but I wanted to get this video recorded before another hour went by so that it would get out today. And the urgency is we're almost here to May 1st and the consecration of St. Joseph. So I want another reflection for those of you who have been preparing. Also, however, the bishop, our bishop, Deschtel, together with all the bishops of Canada and the United States, are reconsecrating the country of Canada and of the United States to Mary on the same day. So I wanted to clue you in, what will we do about that? I'm still waiting to hear some things, but my tentative plan is that I won't do anything at the same time, except maybe like a watch party or something, so that we could be together, perhaps when the bishop does the consecration. But I think at another time that day, I will say Mass in my chapel and renew the consecration of our parish to Jesus, and Jesus through Mary, and also to St. Joseph. And at that time, you will also have an opportunity to renew your own consecrations to Jesus and Mary. I think that would be, even if you haven't been doing the 33-day prep or anything, once you make the consecration, we do that solemnly every year. Our personal consecrations, but it's good even every day to renew it, so we can kind of have a rededication of ourselves on that day and looking to heaven for help. But now, a few words again about St. Joseph. I remember the first time I heard the title Terror of Demons. We call St. Joseph Terror of Demons in the litany to St. Joseph. It was surprising to me, probably because you don't hear anything from St. Joseph, and you hardly see him at all in Scripture. So it's kind of like, how is he terror of demons? And probably this is compounded by the fact that, at least myself, when I first thought about it, and maybe sometimes still, when I think of terror of demons, I think of St. Joseph kind of having the devil in the headlock or something, and wrestling him to the ground, or St. Joseph sort of being in the house and then someone breaks in the middle of the night and he comes out with his staff. And I don't know, maybe someone tried to do that once. But I think the real reason that St. Joseph is terror of demons are two reasons. His great humility and his virtue. So Joseph is a man of great humility. Mary is, of course, the great woman, and she is actually probably superior to Joseph in humility. But his humility is like unto Mary's, and both of them is certainly like unto Christ. But Joseph, recall that it is humility that defeats the devil. Mary, it's her humility. Even Jesus, his humility to be obedient always to the Father. He doesn't accomplish his own will. Always the will of the Father. That's what Jesus says in the Gospel. And even when we look at St. Michael, him too, we think of him having the devil kind of in a headlock. But his defeat of the enemy is through his great humility. In fact, his name means who is like unto God. Milo's kind of breaking in on us here. Michael's name means who is like God. And he defeats the devil through his humility. A holy person said to me once, and I think they got this through a teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas on the angels, but they said to me, and I believe it, that Michael, he's not the 6-foot tall or 10-foot tall seraphim angel who is high in dignity and power. He has been somewhat exalted, right? Through his facing up against the devil and saying, the devil is rebelling against God, and he comes up and he says, who is like God? And I'm looking up, Michael's like the little guy. The archangels in the hierarchy of angels is the second lowest. The only one lower is like the guardian angels. And Michael goes up to the big, towering, tall seraphim, Lucifer, and says, who is like God? You? No. We worship God because he is good and what he says, right? But Michael defeats him through his great humility, and it's through that humility that God gives Michael the ability to do it. And St. Joseph is very similar. St. Joseph defeats the devil through his humility, not through his power. He knows. See, this is the great thing. And it's also the model for us men, because so often men, hear me, I speak to you especially, that we feel we're not going to do something because we're not good at it. And I say that first to myself, So many times I didn't act, I didn't want to do something because I was afraid I wouldn't be good at it. It's kind of this all or nothing approach. Joseph doesn't do it, especially when the Holy Family is concerned. He's going to get in there. And if someone's going to take a licking for it, it's going to be him way before his family. And in sort of throwing himself against the wall with trust in God, it's an aspect of his humility. He conquers the devil. And you know what? The devil hates more than anything to be defeated by Mary, because Mary, right, her great humility. And she's a creature. And not only a creature, she's a woman. Everyone wants to put down a woman or say Christians do. Well, we don't. We say Mary crushes that head of Satan because of her great humility, but also because God exalts her soul. Likewise, the devil hates Joseph because, at least for Mary, you can say, well, at least she's the Immaculate Conception, right? I never had anything on her. But Joseph, he's not the Immaculate Conception, and he's humble too. And man, it hurts if he defeats me. So the devil runs away scared. But the other thing that is a great terror of the devil to St. Joseph is his virtue. Personally, I think his virtue goes together with his humility. His trust in God brought out the virtue. So, for example, discernment. Discernment is a virtue. We need it. Men, in leadership of our families or the community or whatever we're in, you have to exercise discernment. Like, yeah, sometimes you're a little slow, like myself. I can be a little slow to get started. It's part of my melancholic temperament. Melancholics, they're not the first one to take charge of a situation, but they will when it's necessary. But sometimes, you have to help them along a little bit. But St. Joseph exercises that discernment. Remember, he doesn't know what to do about Mary. What do I do? She's pregnant. I'm unsure what this means. He does what every man should do. He gets on his knees first. He didn't even say something to Mary first. He knows. She probably knows he knows. But the first thing he does is get on his knees. Gentlemen, love your wife, love your children, love your church. Get on your knees before you act, because we can be a little impulsive. And when we're impulsive, we can do great harm. When you say something in anger over one of your children, it does great harm, right? When you say something, you're not there for your wife, it does great harm, right? When the priest, as we know in the news, sadly, it's in the news all the time, right? When a priest sins or he speaks in anger, right, it does great harm. Now, nobody's perfect, myself included, but we could at least get on our knees and pray before we act. Sometimes there's not a choice. Let's be honest too. That's another virtue. It's escaping me now, but it's a virtue that when you have to act and there's no time, then you do the best that you can with the understanding that I'm going to accept the consequences. If I make a poor choice in this moment because I have to choose, well, I'm going to take responsibility for the choices. And there again, that's a man. Joseph takes he takes responsibility for the choices, even when they're not his fault. We talked before about St. Joseph going to Egypt. That wasn't his fault. And they laughed at him. And they mocked and derided him and said, you have that woman, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and you go off in the desert with her with no food? You're a good-for-nothing lug. You know what? Joseph took a licking. He just took it. He took responsibility for it, even though it was God who told him to go. That, my brothers and sisters, and especially my brothers, that is a man. That is the man who, by the providence of God, formed the humanity of Jesus. So I wanted to bring up this title of Terror of Demons because we need that help of St. Joseph to get through. Men kind of taking the brunt there, going out in front of our families and the church and saying to the enemy, you will not talk to my bride that way. You will not talk to my children. So often, men, our children, our spiritual children, they are afflicted because of the times that we were silent. God forgive us, and he does. But that's the past now, right? Let's repent. Let's move forward and say, like Joseph, we are going to go. And also, as I said, with that great discernment, we can pray for that too. Joseph, help me to navigate this world. Joseph, help me to navigate to find work for my family. Gentlemen and ladies, St. Joseph is the patron of workers. So pray to him. When you need help for your family, cry out to St. Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen and children who look to St. Joseph, he's also the patron of vocations. You want to know what your vocations is? Pray to St. Joseph. You want to know who the man or the woman it is you're to marry? Pray to St. Joseph. You don't know what religious order or if the priesthood is for you? Pray to St. Joseph. So all of that I want to offer to you in these last days before we have the feast of St. Joseph. My brothers and sisters, may God bless and keep you.